Welcome to the Smart Talk series, the show for professionals who want strategies, tips, and real talk about all things PR, marketing, and social media. Your host is Melissa Vella Williamson, an award-winning, accredited, and nationally recognized PR pro and communication thought leader. And now your host, Melissa Vella Williamson.
Hello, and welcome to the Smart Talk series. I'm Melissa Vella Williamson. This season, our focus is on passing the mic. During this series, we're going to pass the mic and interview guests who share their expertise with me in my new book, Smart Talk, Public Relations Essentials All Pros Should Know. If you're new to the Smart Talk series, I kick off each season on my own and then bring in more industry experts to discuss these topics with. Check out seasons 1 through 4 for lots of Smart Talk discussions. Candid, insightful talk on topics like public relations, crisis communication, communicating during turbulent times, social responsibility, multicultural marketing, and more. Let's jump in and get started with this season's focus, passing the mic. I've learned a lot since I started my career journey. It's been 2 decades, and one truth has become more pronounced and seems even more important each year I'm in the public relations field. Representation matters. Seeing is believing. And for a lot of people, representation equals belief. Those of us at the leadership level have the privilege and responsibility to role model how we got to our positions for other interested professionals. Identity is multidimensional. We're all made up of different puzzle pieces that connect to make the picture of how we see ourselves. Take me, for instance. I see myself as a woman, Latina, a wife, mother, daughter, sister, friend, professional, and now an author. That new piece of my identity, being an author, is part of the mosaic I'm not quite comfortable with because it's so new and feels, grand, final. I'm not quite sure yet, but I'm working to add it to my story and not let it be the main character of my story. And that's what's interesting about being an author and being multidimensional. It's teaching me a lot about how I see the world now and how people see me. And I certainly never thought I'd be an author, but I've also learned to embrace never say never. Representation matters so much because it really does equal that believability. For some people, it also equals hope. Someone has done something that we relate to because we relate to them. Those of us who know someone who's done something great, we're more likely to follow their footsteps and do something great too. This representation just keeps coming up as a theme these last few years, and especially since I've become an author. Recently, I published a new column for the Public Relations Society of America in the Strategies and Tactics magazine, and it's called Cultural Competency is a Must for All. And the reason I wrote that was because a few months ago in November 2022, I was so excited to attend PRSA's international conference. It was in Texas, so all the timing was perfect for me to drive on up and host a booth and share my book and talk about what was inside. And I was really excited. I was able to speak to both the students and the professionals during ICON 2022. And I really dug into the new book and some of the big insights from it. And what I found was that there were some really high highs and some very unexpected lows since publishing this book. And it's only been a few months. But the uncomfortable moments surprised me because a lot of them have come from professional communicators. While I was at the conference, we had all kinds of people come up to us, a lot of students after I spoke to the student track, and then professionals after I spoke at the professional track. And a lot of the colleagues made comments to me that seemed like if I wasn't a Latina, they wouldn't have said that. A lot of them seemed uninformed and sometimes patronizing. The younger or even more diverse audiences, they definitely embraced me. They were excited that I was an author. They were excited about the book. They wanted to talk about how I wrote the book or my background and how I got to PR. And really talking about that nonlinear path resonated with just about everyone. But it was really, really special to meet some of my podcast listeners. A few of you came up to me and said, I've been excited to meet you and I want to hear about your book and please sign my book. And wow, that was like so validating and affirming. And really, I couldn't have dreamt of a better way of coming out with a book during those moments. And there was no question that I was a legitimate author. But there were moments certainly where I had colleagues, a lot of the more experienced pros, those who have been in the field for a long time, would make comments to me about my age. How old was I? Was I old enough? Oh, I didn't look this old, or I did look this old, whatever that was. It didn't feel appropriate. I had comments made to me about my height. Someone asked me what Native American tribe I was from. And as I dug into and had to answer questions about, well, what is my ethnic background and whatnot, I just kept thinking, if I had a different color skin, if I had different color hair, would this topic even come up? What did this really have to do with this book, which for a lot of pros is like a PR primer, but it's more progressive for those who are experienced. And it just really kind of highlighted the fact that none of us are done learning. And even if you've been in communication for several years, particularly if you've been in for several decades, there's still a lot you need to adapt to and learn about. And that is that cultural competency. Understanding that, oh, I'm approaching someone and maybe they're different from me, but let's think about what makes us the same. And if you're talking about a PR book, maybe that you both practice PR. I had some people who also congratulated me in Spanish, which for Latino pros, it was their dominant language. They're comfortable in it. Absolutely. Do what makes you comfortable. I'll adjust to you. But a lot of times there were people who weren't Latino, who I was exchanging English terms and words with, and then just threw out some kind of phrase in Spanish to congratulate me. And again, it was just awkward. And I really had to, in some cases, explain why I didn't speak Spanish and why my parents didn't speak Spanish. And again, that feeling that you have to prove yourself or do extra work to show that your efforts are valid and you're part of the profession. And I think that's what a lot of people of color experience in all the industries, quite frankly. There's no one industry that I read about that says, oh, the representation is absolutely equal compared to the percentage of what that representation is in terms of the community population in the US, right? There's no equal balance there, but having to do the extra work of, in some cases, defend yourself or defend your work is exhausting. And I was really surprised that at such a professional conference with esteemed professionals, those who are agency owners even, that was still happening. So what that says to me is we really need to think about what kind of representation we're putting out there, both as pros, when we have that opportunity, when we have the mic, when we have the stage, and then when we are experiencing that platform or voice from another, how are we respecting them? How are we appreciating them? Because learning to respect and include people from all cultures and walks of life is really important to our success, is really important to our client success. And we have to make sure we emphasize what is similar about us instead of emphasizing the differences that divide us. We should be working to grow together. So my experience at this recent conference and some of the different experiences I've had, mostly in person, really, not so much online, while it's been a little up and down and sometimes a little unsettling, it's really made this mission and this idea of identity, of representation, and how important it is, and how important it is that that remains positive, more important to me than ever. And so for us to make public relations and communication work more inclusive, we definitely have a way to go, and that's going to have to start from within. In the book, I talk about the invitation theory. And that is my theory that from what I've experienced and seen, people of color or people who come from maybe adverse backgrounds or different backgrounds in the majority of whatever environment they're in may need special introduction or invitation to join that new environment or the new profession or the new field. And so it's our job as working professionals to invite others into our space. And really, what this all comes down to is that old saying, birds of a feather flock together. Our parents often tell us, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. And that absolutely is part of our experience as working professionals. Our brains are still wired from decades ago, generations ago, when we were cave people and we were really trying to categorize safe and unsafe environments and tribes and people. And that still happens today. And the work we need to do is override that natural wiring and make sure that we're making conscious efforts to be careful with our communication, be careful with our responses and our words, but then also making sure that we include others into our groups and make sure we don't have this experience of in groups and out groups. Whenever we notice that, that's okay. It's our natural bias, our natural preference. We need to make sure that we include and do the work of asking others in and putting ourselves in situations where we're meeting new kinds of people with different kinds of thoughts. As communicators, we have the power to really shape the representations of who people are, of what people are even, from our own work and what we include in that work. So I want you to think through, especially during this season, when you're creating marketing materials, when you're creating PR materials, what kind of terminology are you using? Is it inclusive? When you are meeting new people, are you making an effort to really tailor how you talk and how you speak and what words you use to what would most respect them? When you create visuals, photos, or videos, is there anyone missing? Any color of people missing? Any type of people missing, right? What kind of portrait are you really painting? And I wanted to ask myself when I wrote this book, those kind of questions too. I felt like, yes, I had a lot of advice to give, but it was really important for me to have others weigh in and share their points of view on the different themes I unfold. So at the end of each chapter, chapters 1 through 10, we have a section called Pass the Mic. And in the Pass the Mic section, I ask different pros. Most of them are from different parts of the U.S. They have different points of view, different areas of expertise. And of course, they're different ethnic backgrounds and lifestyle backgrounds, right? But I asked each one of them, tell me. I asked a question related to the chapter, and I asked a question related to the topic of the chapter, and I asked for their input. I passed the mic metaphorically to them and said, give me your opinion on this topic. Because it was really important for me to have others weigh in and share their voice and their different perspectives on it. I got the phrase pass the mic and this idea from a few years ago during the Black Lives Matter protests. I noticed that some social media influencers were sharing their spotlight or their platforms using this hashtag pass the mic with other diverse influencers. A lot of these social media influencers had big followings. A lot of them were from the white community and were inviting Black social media pros onto their channels or Latino pros to take over their feed and share their ideas and context and their visuals and their thoughts with their followers. And so it was really great to see that collaboration where each one found that opportunity beneficial. And that's really the magic of partnerships. And that's what's special. Both sides really benefit not only from the exposure, but the growth that happens when you work with someone else, particularly someone that's different from you. So these diverse pros that come and share their voice in my Pass the Mic section have a lot to offer you. I'm excited for them to be profiled. We've got about 5 coming up this season that will join me as we spotlight their journey in their industries, how they got to where they are, what they think is special about it, and tips for you on how to be a better communicator from their platform or their stage of reference. Remember, there's enough opportunities for everyone out there. And the idea is, how can you use your platform, use your leverage, use your privilege to share that with others? So join me this season as I spotlight 5 different pros who took on that Pass the Mic challenge with me. I appreciate each one of my Pass the Mic contributors from my book, and I hope as you read Smart Talk, you're inspired to share your stage or your platform or work opportunities with people who could also benefit from them. There's enough opportunity out there for everyone. and we make new opportunities when we work together. As you listen to this season, I want you to think about why representation matters and how it mattered to you. For a lot of people, this representation is like role modeling. It provides a script of how to do something. So what do you represent? Who do you represent? If identities are complex, understand that you represent a multitude of people. People who see themselves in you, your story, in your wins, and in your struggles. I recognize my PR origin story resonates much more than my present story. And it's the journey and that struggle and what we learn that are the best stories we can tell. Thanks to our listeners for joining me for today's episode. We love diving deep into communication topics to elevate our industry practice. If you'd like to go deeper, you can work with me as a trainer, consultant, or hire my firm for strategic communication planning or PR strategy services. And in case you missed it, Smart Talk, Public Relations Essentials All Pros Should Know is out. You can buy your copy to get my advice, tips, and tools about all things public relations. Available on Amazon, or get your autographed copy at mvw360.com/book. If you've already got your copy, please leave us a review on Amazon. It would mean the world to us and helps more aspiring pros find the book. And as always, think smart and communicate smart. And I'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Smart Talk series. If you learned something or enjoyed our conversation, share it on social media or send to a friend. To learn more about this and other communication topics, visit mvw360.com. That's mvw360.com.